If you are preparing for PMP or if you are preparing for CAPM exam, one concept which is very important is the different type of project life cycles. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the different types of life cycles we have. What do I mean by that? I will talk about what is predictive life cycle, what is iterative and incremental life cycle, how both of these life cycles become part of your agile life cycle or adaptive life cycle. Then we will end this video by talking about the Agile Manifesto and the Agile principles. So let's go right into it. So first concept is, what is a development approach? Now what do I mean by that is, before you start working on any project, you need to know, you need to take a decision based on scope, based on your organization policy, based upon your product, service, whatever you call. Like, are you using an incremental approach? Are you using an iterative approach? Or you are using a predictive approach? Correct? So for this particular video, first step is to understand the type of development approach we will use, and then we will go into all of these different types of life cycles in detail. So the four types of life cycle we have is predictive, also known as the waterfall, iterative, incremental, and finally, which you all know, is about agile. Your PMP exam or your CAPM exam, if you refer to your exam content outline, it is heavily dependent upon both predictive as well as agile cycle. So we're gonna talk about these things in detail. Okay, and I'm gonna talk about all of these in step by step in detail. So let's go about it. Before I talk about these things in detail, I want to show you like which particular project should use what. Like for instance, if your project has fixed requirements, your preference should always be to go with predictive approach as compared to dynamic requirements. So if your requirements are constantly changing, that your thought process should be that I want to use an iterative or incremental or agile per se. In predictive project, you start and then you do a step-by-step process to close it. Typically, the end results which you see is a single delivery, single solution which is given to the customer. And ultimately, the goal is to manage the cost, because your cost is defined, the budget is defined upfront, that this is what your project budget would be. In iterative, the goal is that requirements are constantly changing. You continue the same steps until and unless it is perfect. So iterative is all about quality. Ultimately, the solution which you give to the customer is also a single delivery solution, but it's all about quality. You work on it until unless it is considered to be perfect. Then finally, the goal is make sure, as I told you, it should be about correctness of the solution. Then if you are running out of time, your preference should always be to use the incremental approach, where of course requirements are changing. However, the result, the product, the delivery which you are giving it in multiple phases. Like you show it to the customer comes back, ask about changes, and you give it back to the customer. Again, you build on top of that, increment over increment. Then we have the agile approach. Agile is basically a combination of both iterative and incremental. In this, some aspect you may do based upon the iterative approach, where you want to make sure the quality is perfect, and in some aspect you want to give priority to the speed. So that's why agile, I always say, it's a combination of iterative and incremental. So let's go into each one of them in detail. So first, when we have a predictive life cycle, in a predictive life cycle, we discuss the 5 process groups, right? Initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and closing. So we go through a series of steps, step by step, one by one. If you remember, we also did sequential relationship, right? When you do steps one after the other, that's your predictive life cycle. That's your waterfall model. You first do it, you work upon it, you plan, you execute it. Once the execution is done, you test it, and finally you close the project. So it's done as step by step. Remember, when your requirements are fixed, you will always go for predictive life cycle. Now next is about iterative life cycle. Now in iterative life cycle, I'll give you one example. Let's say I want to build an apartment, a 5-floor apartment. Now in a 5-floor apartment, I want to make sure that this is the bestest of best quality apartment out there. How will I build it? First, my focus is to make sure I delivered the best quality product out there, the best quality apartment out there. So what will I do? First, I will analyze it. Based on the analysis, I will do the design. I will continue doing the analysis and design until and unless the prototype, my apartment building which I see over there, it's the perfect auto there. It's the bestest of best quality apartment building. Then same thing, once I feel that this is the best apartment building, then I will make sure I continuously test on that. I will build it, test it, build it, test it, build it, test it until and unless I feel that this apartment building which is over there, it's the bestest of best quality out there. And once it is ready, once I feel this is the perfect apartment building out there, then only I will deliver it. First keyword for iterative life cycle was quality focused, quality, bestest out there. The second keyword of iterative life cycle is that it's a one single delivery. I'm not saying that the first floor is ready, I'm gonna launch it. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying my second floor is ready, I'm launching it. Or am I saying that my first apartment is ready, I'm launching it. Or second apartment, no. I'm launching it once my complete apartment building is ready. This is known as your iterative life cycle. Then we have is your incremental life cycle. Now in incremental life cycle, same example. Let's say one of my competitor who just right across the street is building a similar apartment building. I'm very scared now. I have already spent millions of dollars to come up with this apartment building. I'm already in, let's say, in the building stage, right? In the construction stage. I'm scared. What if my competitor is able to build their apartment building at a much more faster and quicker rate than mine? Then people will prefer his or her apartment building, correct? So now my thought process has moved from quality to how quickly I can launch. So it's more about the quickness to the market. That's my incremental life cycle, which is all about quickness to the market. So what I'm doing in this particular stage is I'm doing the analysis, design, build, test and deliver it. So what I'm doing is I'll work on the first floor first of all in the apartment building. I'll do the analysis, I'll do the design, I'll build it, I'll test it, and I feel like my first floor is ready, I'm going to launch it, deliver it to the customer. Then I will repeat the same steps to the second floor. Analysis, design, build, test, everything looks perfect, I'm going to launch it. So what I'm doing now is I'm launching it in increments, step by step, step by step, step by step, as compared to an iterative model where I launched it as one single delivery and the focus was all about quality, quality, quality. Now before I explain about the agile life cycle, I think I've already told you it's basically a combination of both your iterative plus incremental life cycle. I want to tell you what is agile. Agile is all about flexibility. Agile is all about acceptance, embracing the change. That's what agile is, right? How quickly you can adapt to a situation. So basically in agile, as I told you, it's a combination of both iterative and incremental life cycle. This agile life cycle is divided into two aspects. One is an iteration based agile. Now what do I mean by that? So basically what you are doing is you are prioritizing your requirements one by one. Okay, you have prioritized. Let's say you have 10 features in your product. Okay, then what you are saying is you are launching these 10 features step by step, one by one. So you take the first feature, you do the requirements, you do the analysis, you do the design, then you build it, and finally you test it, right? You're doing it step by step, step by step. You feel everything is ready, you're gonna launch it. But what you are doing in agile is you are making sure that the time frame which you are using to build it is same. Like for example, if there are 10 features, you are dividing that these 10 features will take 10 days. Each feature will take 1 day. So we are dividing it into same time box. And when I say time box is basically the time unit to do and complete a particular work. Okay. Then similarly to iteration based agile, you have a flow based agile also. Now flow based agile is not based on that I need to make only one feature a day. Right? What you are doing is, it's basically you're talking about different time box intervals over here. It is all dependent upon the flow, how the team is doing. If you see that the team is working on it and team is doing a great job, and instead of doing one feature a day, they want to do 3 features a day, the speed which they are picking up is absolutely correct. They are all doing all the right thing. So you will let the team do 3 features in that time interval as compared to a restricted amount. But the process will typically be the same. You do the requirements, you do the analysis, you do the design, you do the build, and finally you test it. You complete it step by step to make sure once your complete product is ready. You can launch 10 features in 10 days, or you can launch the same 10 features in 5 days also if you do a flow based agile. Now let's talk about the Agile Manifesto. So Agile has 4 core values on which Agile was actually developed. First core value is individuals and interaction over processes and tools. So basically Agile says that it's okay to follow a process, it's okay to use a particular tool, but it is not more than people like you and I. The interaction between the customer and the development team, that is more important as compared to following a particular process or a tool. Like, just in case, same example, we are preparing for CAPM exam, right? I know there is a specific process to clear the CAPM exam, but my focus is not to clear the CAPM exam or PMP exam. My focus is something else, which means you should understand it end to end, so that when you go in an interview or you look for a promotion, you are able to properly justify using a case study approach. So it's all about people like you and me, people like the interactions between you and me. It's more about individuals. Second core value of Agile Manifesto, a working software as compared to a comprehensive documentation. I'm not saying you to make tons of documents, in fact, or read a particular book. Do you agree, right? I follow this say no to textbook approach, right? I'm not asking you to read any book, but instead I'm asking you to come up with a working software. How will that working software come into picture? It will be more when you make your own notes, something which you understand, something when you actually follow a case study. So it's more about a working software, show a prototype to the customer as compared to doing detailed documentation. But that does not mean that you should ignore all the documentation. You should make it, but only the necessary documentation which you think is required or is helpful. Third core value of Agile Manifesto is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, what do I mean by that? When a buyer and seller are working together, we focus heavily on negotiating the contract. Something like, hey, the buyer wants best deal for buyer, the seller wants best deal for the seller. That's how contract negotiation is. But we always forget, we both, the buyer and the seller, are on the same team working towards one common goal, which is the success of this project. And how the success of this project will come into picture when you do a collaboration, when both buyer and seller are working hand in hand. So it's all about the customer collaboration as compared to negotiating on nickels and dimes. That's not worth it. Last core value of Agile Manifesto is responding to a change over following a plan. Of course, there is a plan. You are constantly follow it. When I record these videos, I create a plan for me. But you know what? Like this mic which I'm using, this mic suddenly stopped working, and for me, mentally I need to be ready when I record videos. I make notes, I make examples, and these examples are carefully thought, which you can relate to, which you can understand, right? But suddenly I see the mic is not working, and today is Christmas. What will I do? The entire market is closed. I can't go in and find out. So I respected the change. I responded to the change. Instead of recording, I used that day to make my notes for the entire course, so that the next day when the market opens up on the Boxing Day, which is basically the 26th of December, I am full-fledged into my recording. So it's all about responding, how you respond to a change as compared to following a particular plan. Okay. Then, as your Agile Manifesto has 4 core values, Agile gives 12 principles also. Now, what are those 12 principles? First, satisfy the customer with great systems. Now, what do I mean by that? If you show to a customer a product at a very end, when you are almost end and the customer doesn't like it, who will go ahead and make the change? You yourself, right? The entire hard work, the time, the money spent on that particular product by that time is already gone. It's a sunk value. What will happen? Your customer would not be happy about it, right? So agile principle, one of the most important agile principle is to satisfy the customer by giving them the product, the prototypes at multiple levels so that they can look at it, feel it, give you feedback so that you can improve it and make it better for them. Second, and in fact, the second is basically the basis of agile, which is welcoming the change, embracing the change. Agile is all about how much flexible you are, whether you are ready to adapt the change or not. And agile welcome changes. If you have a change, come throw at me. I will look at it. I will tell you how much time it will take, how much effort it will take, and I will do that happily for you. That's your second core principle of agile. Third is deliver frequently. Deliver frequently, as it states, deliver it to the customer at a frequent level as compared to showing it to the customer at a last level. Because if you deliver it at a much shorter time scale, customer would be much happier to see the product early with them as compared to the end. Fourth, work with business. Now, work with business means work with the customer, go hand in hand. As I said, it's all about customer collaboration, one of the core value. It's the same thing. You need to work with the customer, both the buyer and seller, both the customer and the team who is doing it is in the one team, right? So you need to work with the customer hand in hand so that the goal of achieving the project is fulfilled. Fifth, motivate people. Motivation is very important. You need to make sure that your entire team is motivated to do the work. Because if the team is motivated, if the team is happy, the result will be shown in the end product. And that's what your customer wants, right? Customer satisfaction is your topmost priority. Keep that in mind. Then we have face-to-face communication. Remember, face-to-face communication is always better as compared to something written, something verbal. You need to have a face-to-face communication. I know right now we are in a virtual world, right? Do a Zoom call, do a Teams call, but look at the person face. Face-to-face communication is another important agile principle. Measure systems done. Now, what do I mean by that? Don't look at your team as they have completed 20 user stories and the other team has completed 5 user stories only. It really doesn't matter. A working software should be your primary goal. It's all about the progress which you are making. And if that working software comes in 5 user stories as compared to 10 user stories, it's absolutely fine. 8, maintain sustainable pace. Now, maintaining sustainable pace, it's not that one time you are giving 50 user requirements and then the next week you are giving only 10 user requirements. This is not how it works. You need to be consistent. You need to have a velocity in place. What is the velocity? Velocity is the number of user stories you complete in a given sprint, in a given iteration, and basically in a given time frame. I'm going to talk about all these things in detail at a later stage, but think of it right now that it has to be a sustainable, systematic growth. Like if you're doing 10 user stories in 2 week sprint, then it should be 10, somewhere close to 10. And it shouldn't be like once it is 10 and the next time it is 50. It shouldn't be like that. Maintain design. Always give priority to quality. Never compromise on quality. That's one of the agile principle that you need to make sure that the quality is not compromise. So continuous improvement, continuous attention to what you are doing, how you are doing, whether it is worth it or not is very, very important. 10th, keep it simple. If you look at my videos, I always keep it simple. I try to give examples which are day-to-day examples in your life and my life. Why do I give it? Because I know that simple things always goes into the brain and it always stick to the user. That's what I'm trying to do. So agile principle is keep it simple. 11, team creates the architecture. Now, what do I mean by that? Your team should be self-organizing team. It shouldn't be like your project manager is telling you, hey, do this. It's not worth it. Instead, it should be a process where the teams themselves are well aware of what they really want to do, how they want to do, and let them take the full ownership, give them the full accountability, because when you give them, when you trust your team, when you give them the full accountability, they will come up with the best design out there. Trust them. And last but not the least, reflect and adjust. So in Agile, there is a concept of retrospective. Retrospective is more like a lessons learned. So retrospective is a meeting where you see how you did the things in a particular sprint, in a particular time frame. Now look at it, see it whether you're doing it in the right way or not. And if you see things are not working out properly, make a change, be open to that change. And Agile has also this value which says that it's better to fail early. So make mistakes, fail early, learn from it, and work towards it so that you don't end up wasting your time. So these are the 12 Agile principles. As always, let's do some questions together. Okay. Question number 1. Which of the following is not a project life cycle? Okay, we know the project life cycle. We have iterative, incremental, adaptive, agile, hybrid. But I don't think so. Manifesto is actually a life cycle. It's actually Agile Manifesto, right? So option D is not the correct choice. What life cycle is best when the requirements are dynamic and you want to launch the product as quickly as possible? Okay, so the keyword over here is launch as quickly as possible. If you remember, launching quickly means incremental life cycle. Keyword for iterative was quality, quality, quality. Deliver it as one single product, one single unit. The apartment building was one single unit, but focusing on the quality. Incremental, competition came into the picture, so now I want to do it at a much more quicker rate. So the correct answer is B as in incremental. Question number 3. There are 12 principles in the Agile Manifesto. Which of the following is not an Agile principle? A, welcome change. I think that's one of the principle for Agile. Yes. Face-to-face communication. Yes, that's also another principle for Agile. Third, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. That's not a principle. Instead, it's actually one of the core values. So I think the answer is C, but let's just read option D as well. D is motivate people. Motivate people is also, you need to make sure your team is motivated. So that's also one of the principles. So the correct answer is option C, which is a core value and not a principle. Perfect. So this marks the completion of this topic. So what did we do? We discussed all the different types of life cycles: predictive, agile, iterative, incremental. We also did a little bit of comparison between which one to use at what stage. So it was a good and an interesting topic. Just make sure you focus on some of these important aspects what we learned today, and then we will finally move to the next video. So the next video is about tailoring the project management approach, understanding the concept of value, and finally we'll also talk about project as a value for change. So we'll be discussing all these in my next video. I'll see you there.